look at the intricate metalwork on these artifacts. Today, the Benin Bronzes are widely recognized as masterpieces, displayed prominently in the halls of major European museums. But to understand how these objects actually arrived in places like London or Berlin, we have to look past the quiet museum walls to the year 1897. Before the British arrived, the Kingdom of Benin, located in modern-day Nigeria, was a formidable regional power, protected by one of the largest networks of defensive earthworks on the planet. When early European explorers first encountered the capital city in the 1600s, they wrote home comparing its immense scale and rigorous organization to the grandest cities of Europe. This was a deeply complex, fortified sovereign state, and it was standing squarely in the path of the expanding British Empire. By the late 19th century, Britain was aggressively expanding its colonial footprint across West Africa. To justify military interventions against independent African states, imperial officials frequently used the abolition of the slave trade as a moral pretext. The Kingdom of Benin remained fiercely independent and still practiced domestic slavery. This combination of stubborn sovereignty and vulnerable moral standing placed the kingdom on a direct collision course with British interests. The friction boiled over in January 1897. A British official named James Robert Phillips launched an unauthorized expedition, marching a large contingent directly into sovereign Benin territory. Phillips knew he was violating the kingdom's borders. Hoping to trick the local guards, he ordered his men to pack away and hide their weapons, actively disguising the hostile intent of the march. The Oba's forces saw right through the deception. Recognizing an armed incursion, they moved to defend their borders from the intruders. When Benin border guards discovered the hidden weapons, they ambushed the British column, massacring nearly the entire Phillips expedition. Inside the capital, the Oba knew a massive military retaliation was coming. In a desperate attempt to secure divine protection for his kingdom, he ordered the ritual sacrifice of hundreds of enslaved people. Back in London, the British seized on the reports of both the ambush and the mass sacrifices. This provided a perfect casus belli, the moral justification they needed to legitimize a full-scale invasion. The empire responded with an overwhelming punitive expedition. They deployed a force of 1,500 Marines and local troops, all backed by the massive industrial firepower of the Royal Navy. The march on Benin City was swift and brutal. British forces systematically torched civilian villages along their route and fired artillery rockets indiscriminately into the dense urban center. The sprawling, ancient earthen walls that had successfully defended the kingdom for centuries were blasted apart by the heavy ordnance. In a matter of days, the physical and structural defenses of a centuries-old empire were completely erased. The victorious British military swiftly occupied the smoking ruins of the capital. They deposed the Oba, assumed total political control, and officially disbanded the ancient Kingdom of Benin. To establish their new colonial administration, they repopulated the decimated city with freed slaves, permanently altering the region's social structure. With the territory secured, the victors began a systematic cultural plunder. British soldiers moved through the ruined palaces, methodically prying the intricate bronze plaques and brass sculptures directly off the walls. Here are the expedition members posing proudly among their spoils. They reduced the sacred, physical records of Benin's entire history into a massive pile of looted ivory and war trophies. The British packed these treasures into crates and shipped them across the ocean, selling them to European museums and private collectors to cover the financial costs of the invasion. When you look at the Benin Bronzes today, you are observing the frozen remnants of a sovereign nation, one that was dismantled and stripped of its history under a hail of British rocket fire.